Siapkanlah masa depanmu bersama UKDC. Mari bergabung
bersama kami.
Change transforms this is where action begins.
This video is brought to you by Captivating History. Present in Southeast Asia.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning everyone. What is a beautiful day that we were able to attend this conversation forum with topics Kinship, Anthropology, Centerpiece, and its involving in ASEAN Cultures. And as you know, that if you learn a lot inside or outside country, especially in Kinship system. But before we continue, let me introduce myself. My name is Levita, student of Law 2021. And it's been an honor for me to become the Master of Ceremony that will guide from the beginning until the end of the event. But first of all, let us pray. The prayer will be led by me in Catholic, for others can follow by. In the name of the Father, into the Son, into the Holy Spirit. Amen. God, good morning. Thank you for your blessing this day. Especially we got here safely and healthy. May you guide us for the beginning of this event until the end. Amen. In the name of the Father, into the Son, into the Holy Spirit. Amen. And for the next agenda is, we invite Father Adrian Adirojo as Rector of Dharma Jendika Catholic University to give some welcome speech. To Father Adrian, please. Time and place is yours.
Good morning, everyone. So today we are honored by the presence of Dr. Levi, Dr. Noel, and Dr. Hermel Pama, my own brother, Dominican. So today we are very happy that we could learn something from Dr. Levi. Dr. Levi is a professor at UP Los Baños and La Salle, and she is here in Indonesia for archaeological work at Sangiran. So when I knew that Dr. Levi will be in Indonesia, today she is here, I asked Father Hermel if she could give a talk at our university. And she responded positively, so we are very happy for your presence, Dr. Levi. Today, without further ado, we shall listen more about her research, her expertise in kinship, about kinship. So let's learn a lot from her today. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Father, for the amazing speech of today. And now, before we entering the main event, let me introduce and invite Mr. Richard Sianturi, Bachelor of Law in International Parahayangan, Catholic University, Master of Law in Criminal Law from Gajah Mada University, as lectures, Faculty of Law, Dharma Jendika Catholic University, that will become the moderator of the event. And our special guest, Ms. Levita, Doctor of Philosophy, as the speaker. Ms. Levita has a Master of Science in Rural Sociology from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and obtained her Doctor of Philosophy in Anthropology from the University of Queensland in Australia. And now we're entering the main event to Mr. Richard and as the moderator and Ms. Levita as speaker. Time and place is yours.
This is a surprise. Selamat pagi, everyone. Good morning and magandang umaga, mabuhay from the Philippines. This is an accidental talk, lecture, and I thought I was just going to have a kind of leisurely visit to Surabaya, to Father Hermel here, who is a colleague. But then he said that it would be nice if I share some talk on any topic, he said, on any topic. And I was caught flat-footed because I'm not actually ready to prepare any kind of academic piece. And so what I did is I tried to find out from him the background of the audience, the possible audience. So and I didn't realize it's going to be this number of audience here. So let's see. I have a very short, visual slide, set of slides that I requested Father Hermel to put some color so that it helps us to imagine what the topic is all about. So the topic is something that just came out of the blue when he asked me that, just talk on any topic, political science, anthropology, whatever. And I said, oh, that's difficult. So I said, okay. After a moment, I said, okay, let's just talk about kinship because it's something that we live in, but also as an anthropologist, that's the centerpiece of the field of anthropology. So let's see if Father Helmer can...
Just a moment, we're sending the PowerPoint
Okay.
presentation to the assistant.
All right. So while waiting for my visual aid here, maybe I'll go direct to the topic, which is kinship, and it's being a centerpiece. It's a concept, which is the central concept in the field of anthropology. Anthropology is a discipline. So, but do not expect me to be talking about theories, because my intention is just to have a very informal and most of all, I'd like to have this session as a kind of a sharing of thoughts on this concept of kinship, which we live in and we live by, not as a study, but it's our daily life, daily social relationship, interaction in our kind of society and culture. So that's more the focus of this conversation. That's why I said it's just going to be a conversation, and I'll just be putting in a bit of the concept as it is looked at in the field of anthropology. So just raise your your hand if you find my talking very fast. I can slow down. I think, how much time do we have? The whole morning? I can engage the whole morning. Not quite yet. Okay na? Hindi pa?
Yeah, this one.
Okay.
Just a moment.
Alright, sige. Kwentuhan muna tayo. Let's just warm up. Let's just warm up to...
What brought you to Indonesia?
Alright, okay. I'm now being interviewed by Father Adrian. Actually, well, I'll say this later on in one of the slides. I'm a retiree already. And even if I'm retired, I'm still teaching a bit, doing some lecture. And just to have you have an idea where I am at this point in my life, being a retiree, my husband and I, we've been traveling across the ASEAN. We try to travel across the different countries in the ASEAN region. And this happened, this kind of travel happened maybe how many years ago when we retired? Because when I was still full-time academic at the university, maybe just like any other university in the ASEAN region, we were so oriented to the West. We were kind of thinking of studies in, in Australia. I had my Ph.D. in Australia. And then much of my experiences in conferences, in professional conferences, were mostly happening in North America and Europe. And so there wasn't that much opportunity to really look into our region. So unfortunately, it's because of the colonial education that we had, especially in the Philippines, that we were oriented so much to the American culture. We have been colonized by Spain for 300 years, and more than 300 years, and yet we are so American in our orientation, I think because of the American colonial education that we have as an educational system in the Philippines. So, studies-wise, we did not take that much interest in looking at our region. And only much later in my academic life and interest that my view of studying on the region came in. And I was already almost at the end of my full-time academic career. And then I got involved in linking up with some of the universities within the region. And so it was a learning experience. It was a learning experience, and it made me realize how much I miss out as a professional, as an academic, and as an anthropologist, how much I overlooked our region. And yet the fact is, where the university I'm coming from and teaching for such a long time in the University of Los Baños, it's known for agriculture-related and environment-related academic programs. And I've had so many students, graduate students, masteral and PhD students, who are coming from Indonesia, from Thailand, from Vietnam, and so it's only through those students that I have that it provided me more insights about our kinship in the region. And so that intensified my interest to know much more about the ASEAN region. And in this case, now that I'm in Indonesia, I'd like to learn more. And that's the reason why, Father Hermel and I are very much into discussion about culture in Indonesia, the ASEAN, and so on and so forth. So that's how it is that I am traveling in Indonesia. I've been to several places in Indonesia already. Been to, my first was, I think, some years back already. And the variety of the cultures across Indonesia is so fascinating, just like the Philippines. There is no one place that's sort of the same with another island in Indonesia. So it's a very, very rich culturally. So pwede na? We can have it already, not yet?
We're having problems.
We're having problems. Okay. That's all right. I can just perform.
We'll just try another Wi-Fi source.
Wait.
That's the PowerPoint. Wi-Fi source.
Let's see. Is there a way that, what if it's the same, yeah? If I have it, it's still the same, right?
If you access Wi-Fi through your phone.
I think it will not be.
Just give the Wi-Fi to Levy, the Wi-Fi. Perhaps it could work.
Let's see.
Let's have to email. I can tether from here.
Yeah, we are not so much in kindred spirit with the technology here. Okay, but anyhow, I'd like to cover 4 areas here in my sharing with you. So I did a bit of introduction of why I'm here and why the topic. And so, and as I said, this is not going to be a lecture. This the main purpose is to engage us, everyone, to share ideas, experiences, and thoughts on this concept of kinship. And so, look at our forum now as a gathering, as a participatory gathering of students and faculty of the university, and that I would encourage you to think in terms of your own culture, just as I am coming from a Filipino culture, and alongside, the culture that is, this is a Catholic university, and we have priests around, and then you have faculty from different programs, academic programs, I understand. So I'm now on my 3rd slide here. So who I am and where I'm coming from. So we can go to these two basic premises of this conversation. As I said, anthropology, which is a discipline, and then kinship. By the way, Father Adrian said something about sharing with you my own research experience. Not so much of that, but yes, I have had myself immersed in anthropological studies, research ethnographies, and I find myself always in a situation of establishing kinship. So I have done a bit of field work in the island of Mindanao and among indigenous peoples in Mindanao, particularly the Tivoli of Mindanao, which I think as a group would be similar to probably some of the indigenous peoples in the Philippines. Probably the one that's closer to Mindanao, anong island yun? Mahal? Maluku, or yeah. Okay. Maluku, yeah. Yeah, oh, right, yeah. So there could be some parallel practices and traditions, but I'll not be talking about that this morning. But I'll be concentrating on this concept of kinship as the centerpiece of anthropological studies. Okay. So maybe I'll ask some participation from the audience. What do you understand of anthropology as a discipline, as a study, as a subject? Do you have it here in your curriculum? Let's say among some programs, degree programs here. How many of you have an idea of what anthropology is all about? I'll be a teacher here this time. Yes, ma'am, yes.
Is that anthropology law?
Anthropology is?
Is there anthropological law?
Law, anthropological law. Oh yes, there is. Yeah.
Is that include in pluralism hukum?
Does that include pluralism of law?
Yes, yes, yeah. In fact, in the Philippines, in recognition of this indigenous legal system, no? I may refer to it as an indigenous legal system. Our government in the Philippines has already instituted the accommodation of traditional law, traditional social order. When there are conflicts in indigenous people's community, then what the process of conflict resolution would be through the traditional legal system. So yes, there is anthropological law. Who else would like to share their knowledge of the field of the study of anthropology? Yes, sir.
I think what Mrs. Nani trying to say is that in the Faculty of Law curriculum, anthropological field of study is included in pluralism, in pluralism subject, something like that.
Yes, yes.
So,
yeah.
benar ya teman-teman yang hukum dapat itu ya apa kelas pluralisme hukum. Nah, in the Faculty of Law, the subject about anthropology is included in the pluralism of law subject.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's wonderful. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the curriculum of law. Maybe Father Hermel is, because I think he teaches in UST, and I don't know if it's included in UST. I know that some of their students in the Graduate School of Philosophy would have lawyers. But I'm not very sure, though, in the Philippines, if the curriculum of law, Bachelor of Laws, would include, the pluralistic legal system of the country, not the nation-state system, but within the country, then you will have a variation of legal system.
In the Department of Anthropology in the University of the Philippines, there are about the curriculum. In the Department of Anthropology, we offer 2 courses that respond and connect to the College of Law, and that is legal anthropology and political anthropology. And law people from the College of Law would cross-enroll to the Department of Anthropology to take up these 2 courses, legal and political anthropology.
I'm not very familiar with lawyers, because I don't want to be in trouble with lawyers. so hard to be engaged with lawyers. But my father wanted me to be a lawyer, but I refused to enroll for my degree. Instead, I landed up in.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Madam,
Yes,
in Philippines, is the traditional law integrated in the order law? Would you, for example? Thank you.
All right. As I was saying earlier, among indigenous peoples communities in the Philippines, they have their own way of resolving conflicts in the community. All right. And so what year was that, ma'am?
I can take it in my own. If you can send to my
code,
WhatsApp.
the LGU, the local government, no? The local government, which code, the new local government code, 1991, well, it's no longer new. It used to be that all conflicts, all criminal acts, or all legal conflicts, legal issues would be resolved in the court of law of the state, of the government. Even those coming from the indigenous people's community. So in 1991, the local government code changed that, which actually was also in consonance with the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act of 19, what is that? Which accommodated the governance system of indigenous peoples, tribes. We normally call them tribes. And so the local government code of 1991 already provided the provision that if there are conflicts, let's say among communities, let's say in Mindanao, in the area where I did my field work in Mindanao. So before going to the court, the state's court, then they will have to consult with their own council of elders to resolve the conflict in the traditional way. And only if it's not resolved, then the second option, the next option is the government's legal courts. Also in marriage, you can, couples coming from indigenous peoples, communities can have their own traditional marriage, and then that's considered still acceptable. But in most instances, apart from the traditional marriages, then they also add, the court, the state system of legal marriage. So I don't know if in Indonesia that's also practiced in Sharia law. Yeah, that's right. In some Islamic communities, particularly in Mindanao, then Sharia law is also respected and recognized by the state. Oh, this is becoming a very interesting conversation. Yes. Any other? And it's departing from my idea of kinship as the focus of our conversation. Okay. Are we getting any success here, Father Hermel?
Yes, I have successfully connected to the Wi-Fi now.
No, right, wonderful.
I'm now emailing the
Okay.
PowerPoint to them.
Okay.
Finally, hopefully.
All right.
Dr. Levy?
Yes.
May I ask?
Yes, sure,
I found
sure.
Your,
Sorry,
your paper on the kinship, actually, in 2018, Atlantis Press.
Oh, yes,
Going
okay.
back to explaining about the importance of kinship mode of production. You said mode of productions into the, how it relates to the ASEAN and region and global economy. Why and how you can make relations into the concept of kinship to the economic spheres.
Oh my goodness, you Googled my publication.
Yeah.
He's from Gajah Mada also.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That was a conference paper actually, which got published. I think it was presented in Indonesia, if I remember. I think that was a conference in, if I remember, in Tanjung Pinang, I think. Kinship. I wish we can have the kinship is. We don't have to really be very technical about it in terms of anthropological technicality. But we know that many of our economic, I have to stand, I'm duckling. Many of our economic processes are governed by kinship relationship, right? How many of you are coming from rural areas, from communities? It's there. How many of you? I'll just quickly respond to what's your name again? Richard. The relationship between kinship and the economic and mode of production.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. How many of you are coming from, let's say, from even in industry, or coming from rural communities?
Siapa dari daerah miskin? Jangan pura-pura nggak miskin. Daerah-daerah
Or let's say family, or let's say on any business.
Kira siapa? Ayo tunjuk tangan. Banyak. There are many.
There are many. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. And try to think of it. Who runs the business? Who are the employees in the business? Yeah. So that is essentially what I mean by kinship mode of production, where the running of the business, even particularly when we were still very much farming communities, transactions are through kinship relations, right? So that's the relationship between kinship and economic system. Very, very quick response to that. But I thank you for reading my paper on this. All right, so we can have it quickly. Do I have a or
the later one?
Transition, the transition.
Yeah.
Okay, I
You
just
can say next and then.
yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, just jump to, this is just the title slide, so jump to the next slide very quickly because I'm already, I think, on the third slide. Yeah, this is the overview, sort of an outline of what I would have wanted to go through in this talk. And then the next slide, please. Yeah, this was, I have talked about it already. Thank you, Father Hermel, for these visuals. I requested him to put in a lot of pictures that are much more, intimate to us here. Next slide, please. Yeah, and I don't usually put my picture on the slide, so Father Hermel Googled my photo. That was when I was still very much into the, we got hold up and held up in the COVID years, so that was the COVID years there. Next slide, please. I have talked about it. All right. So as I said earlier, I have two major concepts here: anthropology as a discipline, as a social science discipline, which is the discipline that made famous kinship studies. Okay. In fact, it is in anthropology that many concepts, many theories on kinship emerged. No? So, as I said there, kinship very much related, the way we understand it is very much related to sense of family, brothers and sisters, relatives, family tracing, we call it genealogy, and all these kinds of kinship classification. Next slide, please. This is what I was doing earlier. What is your understanding of anthropology and as a field? And so we got, sharing on anthropology of law and the legal anthropology and so on and so forth, no? But let me just, can it be, I don't think it can be read from a distance there at the back. You can't possibly read it. Can we have it enlarged? No, not anymore. But I'd like to hindi na pwede. Yeah, can we have it enlarged? But anyway, I'll just probably read it. No? Anthropology, I have this, all right, I think we're going to have some success here. So anthropology is, I picked out from, yeah, that's better, I think. Yeah.
For you?
I think so. Well, I'm much more concerned about those at the back who can read. Can you read it from there already? Oh, good. Okay. So I picked out some of this definition of the discipline. Anthropology is the study of humankind. Humankind because the writer is gender sensitive, so it's not mankind. When we talk about mankind, then it has reference to just men. So the term is humankind. And my favorite one is Komarov and Komarov. And he looks at anthropology as the study of societies which are on the periphery of civilization. that constitute the underside of modernity. So traditionally, when we think of anthropology, we think of the study of the exotic, right? Those kinds of people who are not modern, who are not Westerners. And in a way, it is right. And compared with sociology, sociology and anthropology share the same grandparent or grandfather, grand theorist. Okay? Emile Durkheim, no? And who is also referred to, I'm sure the philosophy majors here would have familiarity with Emile Durkheim. So that's kinship, no? Anthropology and sociology are keen social scientists, social sciences, no? Anthropology and sociology. And the way that I differentiate it is that sociology focused on urbanizing communities, no? While anthropology focused on traditional communities, traditional societies. Next slide, please. So, but theoretically speaking, they are the same, more or less, in terms of object of study, communities, except that methods, no, methodologically, they are different. Traditionally, sociology made use of surveys, very positivistic, we call it, no? Very quantitative. No? While anthropology is very much into immersion in the field work, being engaged in the field. So methodologically, that's the difference between sociology and anthropology. Okay. All right, so kinship, no? As I said, kinship has become the centerpiece of the discipline in terms of subject matter of study. And anthropology, the early anthropologists, no, I'll not refer to names already. Anthropology, just like sociology, was in search of explanations. You know? Why that kind of order? You know? But in the context of social change, in the context of progress. And so sociology was into that, you know, trying to understand changes due to industrialization, modernization, and so on and so forth. And anthropology was some kind of a baseline understanding. What was the kind of society we have prior to being modern? And so anthropology became that kind of study of the predecessor or the beginning state of communities that we now know of as modern society. So more or less, that's the way that anthropology emerged as a discipline. No? So one of the things that anthropology got so immersed in terms of making sense, is what is the kind of social order that traditional, no, that I don't want to call pre-modern, no, but non-modern societies that we now know and understand. No? So what was the kind of social order that was there prior to the advent of, these days, all that we have is technology, modern, everything is modern. No? So anthropology noted in their studies, in their researches, that much of the social order of communities, of traditional communities, are being within the kinship system. Okay? And I'm sure I don't have to belabor. I don't need to really expand our discussion on what the social order is, but just try to reflect on the communities where you're coming from. No? what is the kampung leader here? In the Philippines, we have the barangay, and so you have, or even in the larger social order.
RT.
Yeah, and the leader would be a relative of such and such, and then it is a family dynasty, and so on and so forth. And it's just like the Philippines, and also, in many other ASEAN countries, right? So, kinship, the ordering, the arrangement of the community, the governance, in other words, the governance of the community revolves around kinship relationship. And this is what anthropology discovered in many of their researches. And so out of that, the disciplinary orientation, then theories on kinship, many theories on kinship developed by anthropologists, of course. Next slide, please. I think I'll throw this away already. All right. So, as I said, kinship theories, and then of course, defining the fundamental concept of kinship was also attempted. And well, it's smaller again, so I'll just read it aloud. Kinship is defined as the web of social relationships that form an important part of the lives of all humans in societies. So it has to do with relationship between members of the same family, and also kinship defines or puts the order into which who will marry and who will not marry. In terms of blood relations, we have in the Philippines, there is a taboo on marrying your first cousin and second cousin, although that incidence, that kind of marriage also happens, but it's something that is considered not proper. Okay? So, kinship and family, note the relationship now, kinship and family, are formed by marriage, right? And alliances, and even political alliances. This is very true. I'm sure in Indonesia, this is also very true. Political alliances are also, premised on kinship and family, right? And another theory, alliance theory is also a theory in anthropology. Theory of descent, meaning genealogy. Who are your parents coming from, etc., etc. So that is called theory of descent. And all the other categories that we have, even the genealogical system, the tracing of your relationship to the father and the mother, anthropology also developed classification system like matrilineal system, bilineal, and it's defined in terms of marriage, and residence upon marriage. So these things, became the major theories that emerged in the field of anthropology. So, for instance, even kinship terms are there. I'm sure I requested Father Hermel to put in examples of kin terms, although I don't know everything there. So, like your elder brother, your elder sister, there is a particular kin term, right? Also, you have a kin term for your grandfather, grandmother, or even cousins. I'm sure, I'll ask later on.
Yeah.
So, these are some of the kin terms that I think included there, Father Hermel, right?
Yeah.
So, you have particular, You have particular kin referent term. For your, let's say, in some culture in the Philippines, there is a particular term for a cousin, for an elder sister, ate, and then an older brother, kuya. And I'm sure you have that also here in Indonesia. Okay? So I see heads nodding. So next slide, please.
Ma'am,
Yes. Go ahead. Father.
Ate might come from Chinese term ache.
Ache, yes, yeah, that's right.
And kuya.
Yeah, kuwa, yeah, something, yeah, I think so, yeah. And then, sanse, ditse, in Bulacan, yeah, in the Philippines, we have ditse, sanse, etc., no? So, you can see that within our region, I'm not a polyglot, I'm not a very, very good at language, no, different languages. So my husband is much more. He knows quite a number of languages in the Philippines. But I'm the anthropologist. He's not an anthropologist. So in anthropology, therefore, kinship became a kind of terminological system. No? So the elaboration of those terms got looked into by anthropologists, no? So I would always think of anthropology as a field that invented, no? That invented terms, right? And so without those inventions, anthropology will not be a discipline at all. In some ways, no? So because anthropologists that started the field of anthropology are not necessarily living it because they are mostly like Durkheim or like Malinowski, who are the other founders of, well, in America it's Bronislaw Malinowski. So, and then the father, Margaret Mead, and then Malinowski is the father of, I don't know who the mother is, but the father of anthropology is Bronislaw Malinowski, who got trapped. There's quite a story. I'll not tell the story, but it's a very interesting story how anthropology emerged as a discipline. It's because of the war. This Malinowski got trapped in the island of Trobriand Island, sort of, Australia, and he did not want to be drafted. So he escaped the drafting and stayed in the communities with all the rites, rituals, etc., and he got fascinated with it. He's Polish, right, Father? So, he got so fascinated with the traditional communities and so on and so forth. So he stayed there for, I think, 3 years and all. And so he took notes. That's how anthropology developed. But that's a long story and etc. It's very, very fascinating how the field came about. So that, as a terminological system, therefore, it exists in the mind of anthropologists in that sense. So it also is a discipline. It's the terminological system was constructed in the field, by anthropologists in anthropology, kinship as a terminological system. So it is in a way a construction. The terminological system is a construction of the discipline. Yet, next slide please. Yet, to us, it's not a construction. We live it. And that's why I said it's the indwelling. We live it. We live it in our cultures. So it's again small, so more than being anthropological studies, we live kinship relationship. Well, I'll tell something about the kinship relationship. So kinship is within our worldview. It's like I liken it to searching the Google. You search for something, and then many information will come out. Okay, so we have the artificial intelligence now, and many information comes up. But it's just like that. If I ask you now of somebody, or I'm sure many of you have experienced asking somebody, a stranger, and then you will be asking, even if Indonesian already, you will be asking, from where are you? And then followed a long line of, relationship. Do you know such and such? If it rings a bell, the place is like that. So I have a friend there, etc., etc. So it comes out to us automatically, right? We do not have any difficulty. We do not have a sense of complexity when we ask somebody, oh, such and such, oh, he is such and such, no? So we have that, no? We have that in our automatic response when we encounter somebody. And before I ask you, my husband comes from a family who did not grow up with grandparents, no cousin, right, man? No cousin, no auntie, because they were coming from a missionary family. They moved from one place to another, so they did not experience having cousins. And so when he got married to me, I have all this extensive relationship, and he has trouble. He has trouble following, no? He has trouble following. How are you related? That even no matter how repetitive already, he would always say, what is your relationship now with that guy? So it's because he did not live it. And so he has difficulty. And that's how it is with the anthropologists who research and studied all this kinship system. But us, who are immersed in this kind of culture, it's just automatic to us. No? Let me see. Let me ask a question here. Are you related to anyone? You're here in this gathering here. Anyone who has a keen relation with anyone here?
In the same place.
In the same place.
Ada yang saling punya hubungan antara apakah keluarga, apakah di sini saling ada beberapa kan mahasiswa?
Even beyond your family, but somebody who you consider is like family.
Yeah.
Anyone? Yes, go ahead. Describe your relationship. Describe your kinship here.
Okay. I have a twin brother, but my brother is not here.
Yeah, but you are biologically twin?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we call filial relationship, no? Because you have blood relationship, right? So that's another category in anthropology, filial relationship. But also anthropology developed this concept of affines, because you became a part of the family, or you are a godfather, no? So anyone of you who has that?
Ada lagi, misalnya ada marga Sianturi di sini? I hope not. Ada yang lain, misalnya satu marga atau satu kampung atau ada keturunan dari kakek gitu yang sama?
In a kampung, yeah, I'm sure if you are coming from a kampung, you'll be able to name, drop, yeah.
Saya kira ada yang dari Manggarai, kan banyak itu biasanya.
Ya,
Manggarai. Mana tunjuk tangan yang Manggarai?
Manggarai.
Tunjuk tangan atau nilai D?
Yes, I see.
Siapa lagi? Nah,
yeah, go ahead, yes.
They are from same kampung called Manggarai in the East Nusa Tenggara.
Yeah, okay.
So they are in the same
line of the family. Yeah. So you see, we are in that kind of a setup already. We don't we take it for granted, And yet, for Western anthropologists, American, other those coming from the West, they don't have that much relationship of that extent, right? Okay. So when I was doing my anthropology, I sat down in the, all these classification systems and all. And so my classmate was asking, this was back in Australia when I was doing my PhD. And this classmate was asking me, do you understand what the professor is discussing about? All this genealogical, mother, father, etc., etc. And I said, oh yeah, I live it. I just said, I live it. So, because I'm having a problem of tracing. Anyway, next slide. Okay. In the Philippines, many, and I'm sure our priest here, that this is a particular concept that is very much associated with this whole spirit of kinship. And it's pakikipagkapwa-tao, being in a fellowship or a fellow human being. And I'm sure Father Hermel can even much more elaborately discuss on this. But very quickly, because I have a time here already, right? I can see that the clock is ticking. So our sense of pakikipagkapwa-tao is something that we try to revisit. And it emerged in psychology, not in anthropology as a discipline, but in psychology, it got revisited in order to have a much more indigenization of our culture and of our psychology as a people. And so we said it's pakikipagkapwa-tao. And early social scientists, the Diliman, where Father Herbal is. This has to do with a sense of well-being of others. So this extends the spirit of kinship into fellowship. And I'm sure I can also give a homily on that. That's something very theological also. But let's. So it's something that we try to look into as our we call it as a social capital, another term, another concept, because it has to do with how we relate with others, how we regard others, our kapwa, our fellows. Okay, and we can spend another session on that. So next slide, please. So the question is, which I would like to challenge the audience here, is where are you in this sense of kindred and kinship spirit? As students, human beings, and as faculty in the university, we are not simply in the university, but also we are living our lives in communities. And I'd like to throw the question of, now that we are into this era of, we call it culture flows, we are, interacting with other people who are not like us. These are the challenges because, especially for young people, we have all this transcultural or bicultural existence where you have the culture of the West also being imbibed, being adopted. So these are the realities that we are facing now. How do we live in an era or in a period of our social history where there is so much instability, we are not very sure, we are constantly in the move, and then we are relating with each other through social media and so on and so forth, and it results in some kind of uncertainty and cultural disintegration, we call it. So where do you see yourself in this? Next slide, please. So for us, for us, Father Helmel and my colleagues who are on the same, worldview, we look at our sense of pakikipagkapwa, of relating. I don't know if it has an equivalent in Indonesia, Father Hermel, the sense of pakikipagkapwa, and I'm sure it has also in Indonesia. of looking at the welfare of others also. So we thought that is our, what we call the foundation, the stronghold of us as a people, as Filipinos. But at the same time, the sense of pakikipagkapwa can also be a root of corruption. It can also go the other way around. It can also be a cause for corruption, and we can see that in our politics, in our relationship between lower income group and the rich and the poor. So we abuse this sense of pakikisama, which is also an element of pakikipagkapwa. No? So that is our challenge, no? To see into our soul, into our being, what holds us together as a community. And I think with that, it's 0-0 already in the time, so I stop there. And if there are some questions, thoughts that you would like to raise further, then go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you very much. Very, very interesting topics, and very interesting how you deliver the topics as well. I think I will introduce you a little bit about the audience. All the students from the faculty of Law, the College of Law.
All right.
Actually, and I think as a lecturers of law, me as a lecturers of law, I think a multidisciplinary approach really important nowadays, as all the era has changed in so many ways. For examples like the economic atmospheres, like the social cultures as well, has developed very, very intensively. So I think faculty of law has also have to be open into a multidisciplinary approach. So I think when our vice rector say that Dr. Levy will come to our campus, that would be very interesting for me to discuss to my student as well. Mm-hmm. And I will make a concise understanding to my students. Jadi teman-teman, kinship ini menarik ya. Jadi kekerabatan, istilah menurut saya yang paling tepat di bahasa Indonesia kekerabatan. Di Indonesia ini sangat masif yang seperti itu, bukan salah. Justru itu yang mau diteliti sama Dr. Levy. Nah, itu mempengaruhi banyak hal. Dalam beberapa risetnya yang saya baca dari Dr. Levy, di risetnya Dr. Levy itu dikaitkan dengan bagaimana urusan ekonomi, baik dalam tataran yang paling rendah di RT atau di keluarga itu sangat, bahkan di global economy di ASEAN itu sangat mempengaruhi. Kekerabatan itu bagaimana? Dan di Western cultures atau di budaya Barat itu kinship cuma sebagai mereka cuma meneliti karena mereka tahu secara objektif saja. Tapi kalau kita itu sangat menghidupinya, sehingga menarik untuk melihat bagaimana kaitan kinship dengan our life at all gitu. So I think before I give to the floor Dr. Levy, I have two questions. This is very fundamental questions for me. First, why do you want to become an anthropologist? This is a very rare, I think, here in Indonesia. And second one, when you told us about kinship many things before, how the kinship would very impact. I mean, kinship here in Indonesia, for example, or the ASEAN countries, how it impacts very much into the people's life itself. So that's the two questions from me.
Why am I in anthropology? I'm fulfilled in that field. I live it. We were just talking yesterday with Father Hermel, and I was saying, you seem to be so animated in the Indonesian culture already. How long have you been here? And it's just a few months. And I said, you look like you are enjoying it, and you are, you always like to do field work. And I can relate on that because it's beyond, it just so happened that it's in anthropology that I found so much fulfillment, but in all honesty, my first degree was psychology. And I thought that's way, the curriculum, the psychology, I was already in my odysseys, you know. I'm already going 72 years old, frankly speaking. Yes, my man. And yes, I am old already. I am old. And mind you, this Bantuk Batik is already 42 years old. It was a gift. It's a kindred relationship with an anthropologist I met in 1981. And we established kinship. And he sent me from Batuan. I said, oh my goodness, I'm talking to Indonesia's anthropologist. I will wear my 42-year-old. But it's still in doing. So I shifted. When I did rural sociology, that was closest to anthropology. My advisor, I left psychology because it's too Western. It's too focused on individual. The curriculum of psychology is focused on individual, and I was unhappy with it. It's too individualistic, the orientation of the field. And so, but I was already in my third year, fourth year, so I said, oh, it's going to be expensive if I shift to another course. So I just finished it, but I went to sociology and did master's in Asian Social Institute, which I did not finish. I was halfway through. But eventually I went to UP Los Baños and ended up with rural sociology. And my advisor in my master encouraged me to pursue anthropology because she thought I had a very anthropological mind. So it comes out naturally, you know, all this kinship relating. And my mother was very influential on that because he was the one who suggested the topics for my masteral thesis and so on and so forth. So it's both a personal and a personality, tendency. Okay. The second question, the impact of kinship in the life. I would not want to call it impact. I would say that's our life. We live our life in kindred, in kinship relationship. And therefore, it comes naturally that it will have impact on our government, on our economic transactions, and so on and so forth. It permeates, no? Kinship relations permeates all our kinds of social relationship if we think of ourselves as human beings. And I'm scared of the challenges that confront us with artificial intelligence. How much of this humanity, this sense of humanity, is still with us when we get confronted with automation or with all this technology-based kind of mediation in our human relationships. So definitely, kinship, we don't even think of impact, but kinship and kindred relations are the meaning of life, I think. Relationships, social relationships. So I'm extending this concept of kinship beyond genealogy, beyond it's a sense of fellow human being. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Levy. A little bit about what you have said before. We are legal scholars. I think we are also teaching about humankind as well, the civilizations as well. So I think what the anthropology gives us and the sociology gives us is definitely develop what we learn about what the concept of law is, and that's why here in Indonesia we now develop the concept of anthropology of law and the sociology of law, as we want to make sure that all the regulations has been made by the government, both with the legislative bodies, could meet and could meet the need of the problem of the people itself. I think I will give to the floor about some questions. Ada teman-teman yang mau bertanya? Ada yang bertanya? Harus ada? Ayo, okay.
Yeah.
Stephen, the floor is yours, Stephen.
Alright, Stephen, introduce yourself.
Start, please.
Good morning, ma'am.
Selamat pagi.
My name is Stefan Sonor. My name is Stefan Sonor, and what is interesting for me, I wanna know more this anthropology, the study of humankind, the study of humankind, the study of culture, how the culture affect the human in all their aspects of life. What I wanna know more about this concept of social order, and by knowing this social order more, by understanding it, will we as human and people can make a law revolving around this concept of social order and anthropology. I want to know more about that.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, law, in my simple understanding, law came about in order to ensure social order, so that the social processes are not troublesome. So I think that's the function of law, to provide and to help out, to facilitate having some kind of smooth order of communities, smooth order of the government. But of course, it's not a perfect way. And so law is the field that is addressing much of the resolution of social conflicts and making or ensuring that society is in some kind of order and not so much into chaos or trouble. So that's my simple understanding of why law is a curricular program. Well, you are the lawyers. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. Oh yeah, Pak Ian, please. The mic, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Miss. I am Ian, a lecturer of Faculty of Law. I have two hypotheses here. The first, if we want to know more about ourselves, we have to learn history in generally and anthropology in especially. How do you think about that? First question. Second is, from your second answer from the question of Mr. Richards, perhaps the fundamental that why the young people have to know about their self and respect the diversity of kinship in Indonesia, because we know that Indonesia have too many kinship. How do you think about the hypothesis?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. The first question is about history. No? Yes, I completely, 100% agree that we need to ensure that our young people get to have a sense of history. And part of that sense of history is also appreciating the culture that they came from. It's something like, I would compare it with, we have so many religions, and I'm sure Indonesia is also experiencing the emergence of so many religions. And I have been, because of my background, because of anthropology, then I became open to other faith traditions. Father Hermel, we've been discussing about it with Father Hermel. And so you know you have roots, no, in your faith tradition. So in that sense also, it's parallel to that. So when you have a sense of history, you have roots. And when you have roots, it serves as a structure for you to be the term root. No? So you have some kind of some sense of stability because you know where you are coming from. And so you try to look into your roots. What do I value? What is in my roots that made me a human being? So something like that. So about the next question, which is on kinship, right? And I think it is similar to Sir Richard's concept of on kinship. It's very complicated. It's very complicated already, especially in a society where there are already so many forces. And I said at the end of my talk, I said something about kinship and the spirit of pakikisama in the Philippines, no? Kinship rootedness may also be used negatively. So like it can be the root of corruption also. So when you are not able to discern the use of kinship for the common good, then that's where kinship collapses because it contributes to some kind of inequality also in terms of sense of fairness, of in terms of the sense of fellow human being, where you take priority of who your relatives are and you give favor to your relatives when there are other people who are in need. And I think that has to do with legal, with legal system. So the complex relationship between keeping order and keeping sense of justice, which is central in law, sense of justice, and then complicate it with kinship. I think that is the challenge, especially for those in law or in politics, because politics is supposed to look at also the sense of fairness and justice. And a very good example is where I come from, our mayor. And I'm free to say something about our mayor, and I'm sure you have paralleled that here in Indonesia. Our mayor was once confronted with an issue. He was asked on an issue of delineation of yung street in the town, in the municipality, about how the territory is going to be appropriated. And so there was already that legal paper that says that this belongs to this and that, But he would not stand up for the sense of justice in terms of the legal document, because he says his argument is that, I don't want to hurt, because they are also friends, and they, that complication of owing some debt of gratitude for having been elected. So you give accommodation to the interest of somebody because you got elected through him. So those are some examples of the complexity when we took into the legal processes here. Did I answer my question? Your question? Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions, teman-teman? Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Priska. I want to ask about culture that already exists in Indonesia. The question is, how we can keep our culture in Indonesia, but many people are influenced by foreign culture. So maybe Ms. Levy can give us some advice or the way so we can balancing our own culture between our own culture and foreign culture that come in Indonesia?
That's a very difficult question because I myself am confronted with that kind of, every day, what do you, it has to do with values. It has to do with values. And what you consider is the essence or the reason why we live. So, I have no prescription. I cannot make any advice, no? It all depends on what you hold dear in your life as a human being. And so, I am not a doctor, although I have a Ph.D. I'm not a doctor that can prescribe what is good for humanity. My own advocacy also has to do with my sense of our sense of no one is an island, you live for others also. And when we say for others, you take into account who are deprived, who are not treated fairly, and those who are in the margins, like those who are are poor, don't have access to basic needs of human life. Those are, I think, very fundamental. Fundamental sense of well-being and sense of decent human life. So that will be my general basis for deciding on whether I will go embrace a foreign culture and retain my own culture. So those are everyday transactions that we have to decide on in our daily life. Should I buy this? Do I need this? Especially in our times where there is so much consumerism. A model in a telephone will be coming in and then, oh, this is beautiful, but do you need it? So we take into account also our environment. It's not just people, human beings, but also the planet that we live in. I'm also an environmentalist. My husband is, he used to be director of an NGO called Center for Environmental Concern. And so, creation, theoretically also, creation should not be destroyed, and that does not refer only to humans, but also the home that we are in, and that's our planet. So these things imply moral judgment. And morality is something, that's another subject matter, and I wouldn't want to dwell on it. We have priests around here, they are much more in a position to discuss about it.
Thank you, Dr. Levi. I think I asked you for one question more. This is very interesting topic. I think we are very rare to make this event again.
I will come back.
One questions, last questions. That from me, Dr. Levi. I just curious about this research. Actually, I did very curious about the. As you mentioned about this term kinship can perceive negatively in so many ways. In Indonesia, we know about the nepotism terms. If we use the kinship in a negative way, we can make it a nepotism practice. We are also having a political dynasty here in Indonesia. In so many,
in the Philippines also. Yes.
Yeah, and how you say that we have to make sure that we can deny, we can do some everything that potentially make the kinship in a negative term. So my question is simple: how to do it? That's all my question.
Oh, again, I cannot prescribe on how to do it. It's again a very critical decision point. And I'm sure, and that's the reason, I have to admit that that's also the reason why I don't want to be in an administrative position, because, on a daily basis you encounter issues like that. but it requires so much thinking, and it requires so much consideration of who is going to benefit, and to what extent is the benefit going to be. Is it going to further nepotism? Is it going to benefit only a few and already those who are privileged? I think those are the fundamental basis of my decision. If I were in a critical leadership position and you get confronted with favoring somebody in terms of your decision making, whether it is in politics or even whether in the home, when you see your child or your, getting into a matter that requires some critical decision points, you encounter that on the daily basis. I mean, as a parent, it is also hard because you have children. But how do you teach a lesson that will strengthen his or her character as a human being? So, and that's where you take a decision whether to punish when the child or when your employee is abusive. I think those are the considerations. When it is an abuse of power, when it is an abuse of authority, then that's where the boundary comes in. I think, it is a moral issue insofar as how you treat your fellow, whether it is your child or your colleague or a superior. That's my take. That's where I stand on this matter.
Thank you, Dr. Devi. I will not conclude anything because too much knowledge, new knowledges, I think they themselves conclude themselves. I think the last one, Dr. Devi, in this conversational day, would you please give us legal students, law students, legal lecturers as well, me and my colleagues, any practical advice about how to develop our knowledge in the legal sectors to be more multidiscipline, to be more relevant to our problems nowadays.
With your questions, I feel like a guru, an old woman already, being asked of wisdom. And I'm already old, maybe that qualifies. Yes, I would agree that you should not confine yourself to just one discipline. In a paper, in a book chapter that I am contributing, which is going to be published by De La Salle University, a Catholic university in the Philippines. So we have a collection of many disciplines. One of the friend of Father Hermel, who is also a priest, is contributing to that. And the book is about pagsasaayos. It's about ordering, social ordering. And we have contributors, sociologists, anthropologists, priests, political scientists. So it's a multidisciplinary contribution of the chapter, of the book. And so in my own contribution, because my experience has gone very wide in terms of having been involved in researches on environment, having been involved in social development, and having taught, you might be surprised, I taught in the seminary also on paradigms of social transformation. And so that's where I'm coming from in terms of the wide spectrum of my experiences, both personally and as an anthropologist that engage in interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary partnership. I would argue that it is much better when you have this broader perspective. But it is not to say that you should not be a specialist, because you also have to arm yourself with the with the methods, with the perspectives that you can generate out of your own discipline. So if it is law, then you should know your law. If you are a theologian, if you're a priest, you should know your doctrines, right, fathers? If you are coming from psychology, then, in other words, you try to look into those knowledge and what contribution those knowledge can provide insofar as making our human life better or even improve from where we are now. There seems to be so much social disintegration. So if we have that wealth of knowledge out of these different disciplines, then I think that's where this multidisciplinary exposure would come in.
Thank you, Dr. Devi. Jadi teman-teman, dari seorang antropologis ya, makanya saya datang ke sini itu karena saya tertarik banget. Karena antropologis ngomong di Fakultas Hukum itu jarang. Dan UKDC memulai menurut saya jadi kesempatan emas untuk teman-teman. Khususnya sekarang ini kan ada mahasiswa saya di MPH juga. Jadi kalau Anda melakukan penelitian open to any source ya, di luar hanya hukum-hukum saja. Regulasi-regulasi itu cuma 1 menit Anda paham ngertinya. Tapi teori-teori social order, teori-teori ekonomi, how relations about law and economics, law and sociology itu menjadi bisa sangat menambah isi substansi dari riset Anda. Jadi kita relevan untuk ngasih solusi ke masyarakat, bukan omong kosong. Jadi skripsi Anda bisa dibaca, bukan di selesai sidang dibuang, gitu. Kebanyakan kan dibuang, gitu. Jadinya Anda sarjana hukumnya relevan. So I think that's all about our discussions today about the conversational day with Dr. Devi. Thank you very much for coming into our campus. We hope that you can come back again to give us enlightenment as well, especially for our faculty. So give applause to Dr. Devi. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Terima kasih. For this wonderful experience, and I am so happy to be with you, and it's been an honor to be guesting here at this university.
Thank you.
And, certainly, there's another opportunity.
Wow, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
Kinship Part 2.
Okay, it's part 2. Okay, thank you so much for Mr. Richard and Ms. Levita that has been sharing such great information and knowledge for all of us. And now I'll invite Father Adrian to give certificate and placard for Ms. Levita for the symbol of appreciation that became the speaker at this event.
Oh, I love these rituals.
Yeah, after that, maybe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. First to thank you so much. And there is something from the university, so you will remember us. Yeah.
Beautiful. I like the colors. It's so alive, vibrant.
One more?
Thank you. This form Father Adrian can give some certificate for Mr. Richard as the moderator of this event.
Okay, Dr. Levy.
Thank you very much.
Maybe Mr. Levy can wait for take a picture together.
Okay, take a picture together. Okay, this one I give to.
Saya buka sendiri.
We are very proud of you, Richard.
He's with the faculty.
Yeah. Satu, dua, 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you.
For the last request, maybe Father
Adrian, Mr. Richard, and Miss Levita can turn back from there, and we can take a picture together with all the audience.
The audience will be background.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Picture with all audience. Thank you.
Maybe all can stand up. Mohon semuanya udah dapat berdiri di tempatnya. Dapat diambil fotonya. Terima kasih.
Tiga, dua, three, two, one.
Kalau semuanya ini acaranya belum selesai. Jangan lupa untuk kita dulu. Terima kasih. Thank you very much. And finally, into the last session. Let's close this event with pray. We're gonna close this event with pray first. In the name of in the name of the Father, into the Son, into the Holy Spirit. Amen. God, thank you for your blessing and given opportunity for us to got a lot of new knowledge thing for our life. May you always bless and guide all of us now and till the end of life. Amen. In the name of the Father, into the Son, into the Holy Spirit. Amen. And I, as the Master of Ceremony, will say thank you for Miss Levita, Mr. Richard, Father Adrian, the committee, and the audience entirely for this event. May what we receive today will become very useful for us, and if in this event we made mistakes, I represent the committee, apologize of all of it. And thank you. We see us together again, and goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very good, huh? Your English is good.
Thank you.
Your English is also good. Keep up ya. Bagus nih mahasiswa hukum. Kamu nggak ngomong hari ini?
Enggak, Romo.
Oke, yuk. Romo.
Terima kasih.